Welcome to Lesson 3. Most B2B financial strategies fail for a simple reason. They jump straight into tactics without truly knowing their audiences. That happens too with B2C, but in this one, I'm going to focus a little bit more in B2B. Here's the thing. In both cases, no amount of SEO, email marketing, fancy campaigns will make up for a lack of real buyer insights. That's why we are focusing right now in the power of market research. Some people may think that is boring. Some people may think that is not necessary and jumping right into their golden nugget of whatever they feel comfortable in doing. But this is something that is fundamental, and this is something that needs to be done. I'm going to show you how I tackle this aspect and how it's the right way to do it, in my opinion at least. Why most financial strategies miss the mark? In financial services, it's not enough to just define a buyer persona like many people do here. It's like savvy Sam and call it a day. You are dealing with a complex buying committee. In this case, there is so many people in buying when you're like talking in B2B. There is like the people that actually feels the need of whatever software that you may need and design software, but there's the people that holds the budget to purchase it, and you have to convince this guy and to convince this other guy. There's long decision cycles and highly regulated environments. We all know about that. To succeed, you need to understand how each player in the decision-making process thinks. What is the driver of their decisions and where they turn for trusted advice. Today, we're going to break down exactly how to use the market research to unlock these exactly insights and map out the real buyer journey. Something that I spoke before, but going more in detail. This is going to help you in order to write what I talked about yesterday. So every move you make is backed by data. No assumptions here. Let's get into it. Okay. In the market research, we need to go beyond the surface. So it's more than defining what I was talking about, the buyer persona, into spreadsheets. In the financial services industry, it's about getting inside the people's heads of the decision makers and uncovering the hidden dynamics in the buying committee. In this picture, I have like the buying committee of a bunch of wolves and I think that is a lion. But what I'm trying to say here is that your goal should be to answer who are the key players in the decision, the CFOs, the risk managers, the head of compliance, the HR person, the IT guys. 2, how do they influence in their process if you're going to be making a specific purchase related with technology? Probably the IT person is going to be involved too. That's what I'm trying to say here. And what are the internal triggers that push them into action? Regulatory changes, economic shifts, some sort of like news, politics, inflation, things like that. Skipping this step means you will never understand why your ICP actually chooses one provider over another. ICP is like idea customer profile. So the key takeaway is the real research means speaking to those clients. We need to ask them questions. We need to actually identify those people, but I'm not going too far ahead. So you have to dissect the real buying journey and finding out who has the most influence. You have to really ask the people and know who are the key players when it comes to be making financial decisions in the company or even in the house if you're like talking B2C. So how do you break down the buying committee? In financial services, the decisions are rarely made by one person. Okay, so they involve a complex buying committee with multiple stakeholders, as I mentioned, each with their own priorities and pain points. It's not the same It's not gonna be thinking the same the CFO as the CMO. So the key roles to identify is like one, the decision maker. That's one of the roles. Usually a CFO or head of finance focused on ROI and long-term benefits, right? Two, the influencer. It could be a head of risk, compliance officer, portfolio manager, looks for the operational impact, the risk, the compliance. And three, the gatekeeper, often a procurement, legal team, and ensuring the solution aligns with the company policies. So we need to really and properly understand the decision-making process whenever it comes to these sort of like scenarios. Each of the players impact the journey differently. So your market research needs to be mapped out. What are the individual pain points? How do they perceive the value? Who ultimately has the veto power? Very important here. So you need, I think I'm going to be actually providing a buying committee map to identify each one of the stereotypical roles, their influence, and what type of content speaks to them. So probably you will be finding it shortly at the bottom here in the post. And for those watching in YouTube, you will be able to watch it also in my Skool community for free. So in the slide number 4, I wanted to actually mention that you need to understand the triggers, what sets your buyer in motion. Before your ideal client profile, the ICP, even thinks about looking for that solution, something has to trigger their search, right? It can be a need, it can be a cost, something like that. So understanding these triggers is crucial and critical to being in the right place at the right time. It sounds very cliche, but it is the most important thing. So we have to understand what are the common triggers in financial services. First kind of common trigger is the regulatory changes, right? New regulations could post compliance officer to seek for new solutions. So you have to be there. You have to be present in terms of content and in terms of opportunity. Second, the market polarity. The portfolio managers might look for better risk management tools. So we need to be thinking always ahead. And the third, the merger and acquisitions. CFOs could be seeking financial consolidation services. What is your job here? Obviously, identifying which triggers matter most to each role in the buying committee and align your outreach to these events. So I would recommend you as an action step here to get a piece of paper and create a list of the 3 to 5 triggers specific to your market and develop a trigger response strategy for each single one. I'm sure that some of the great ideas for content will be appearing at this moment. Then, whenever we are in the situation, we're actually going in the nitty-gritty. This is fundamental. This is, in my opinion, 70% of the job here in marketing. You need to identify what are the reasons and what are the patterns and what are the triggers. Okay, so you have to conduct buyer interviews. That's what you need to do. So the real insights come from talking directly to your buyers. Conduct interviews it's not about assumptions. I mean, you have to play the humble card here. So you have to actually talk to people that either they didn't buy you or they buy you and they're so happy or they are like about to buy you. But it's about uncovering the hidden insights that don't show in the data reports. Things that you have to ask. I'm sure there's many information online. I'm going to actually put a PDF here with a bunch of questions organized and structured. This is my personal method. And seriously, and I'm telling you from the personal standpoint, there has been times that I was going subjectively in one direction, but after doing a few interviews, even after just 3 interviews, it had to pivot. It was so obvious, that campaign ended up being a success. So the key questions to ask to financial buyer interviews are: 1, what prompted your search for a solution? 2, who was involved in the decision-making process? 3, which internal challenges were more critical? And 4, How did you evaluate the vendors? 5. What content or sources did you turn for trusted advice, like LinkedIn, podcasts, industry experts? What do you read? I'll show you that later in the notes, but these are some sort of like the directional points in order to actually conduct these interviews with people. And seriously, sometimes it's good to actually step back and ask those questions. It will really benefit you in the long term. So after this, you have to do building a research-based buyer journey map. So this is what I actually spoke about and mentioned in the last lesson. But you have to, once you have the insights, it's time to build your buyer journey map that reflect the real decision-making process. So first, you have to map the key stages: awareness, consideration, research, decision, advocacy. If there is any other in your segment, any other stage that you have identified, go for it. I mean, this is your story. So you have to identify those key stages. 2, identify the key touch points for each role. Which stage matter most to the CFO? Where does the compliance officer get involved? Is the CEO going to be the same person? Is like a self-made person? You have to identify all that. Highlight pain points and triggers. Mark the key issues each role faces and the triggers that push them into action. Okay? And 4, align your content with the buyer intent. Create content for your socials that is valuable and aligns and addresses the needs and guides each role through the journey. So I'm going to actually put the buyer journey mapping template so you can start filling it with insights from your buyer interviews. Again, you will find it in a link in the Skool. So the last one, the action plan, creating research-driven strategies. Now it's time to put this into action. Here's your plan. So in this case, you have to first identify the buying committee, list each role, their pain points, and their influence level. 2, interview at least 3 to 5 people. The more, the merrier. Let me tell you, it's fundamental here, but at least 5 buyers. If you are in a new business, 5 people that are in your target audience. Even if they haven't purchased anything from you, just ask them. Aim to understand their journey and what really influenced their decision. That is your aim. That's what you want to know. And third, map the journey. Use the template to document each stage, touch point, and key content piece. 4, align strategy to the journey. Ensure every piece of content and campaign speaks directly to a specific stage or role. Market research, just so you know, isn't a one-time thing. As your industry evolves, you should understand that this is part of the buyer's journey, and this is an ever-evolving thing. Market research, as a final thought, is your foundation. Without it, you're building on shaky ground. But when you get it right, you can tailor to messaging you can get your messaging, you can speak directly to each role, you can actually create content in different levels, identify the right triggers, and build strategies that resonate. When I was in school back in the days, a million years ago, they always said that market research was fundamental. And there was a time in my life that I was like, that's boring. But let me tell you, as time went by, I realized that it's way more important to spend more time doing that research first than actually putting patches later on and spending money actually fixing what was wrong. So in the next lesson, we will look at how to create high impact content that speaks to each stage of the buyer journey. But you have to start with your research, and we will dive deeper into execution next. So as a supporting material, I will be including the buyer interview guide, the buying committee mapping template, and the financial buyer journey map. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys use it. Feel free to comment, feel free to share, and feel free to actually start working on it. And if you have any questions, here we have the community in order to actually address them. Thank you so much, and see you in the next lesson.